Good afternoon, members of the Utah State Bar. My name is Cara Tangaro, and I am the current president. And this will be my last message. My term is up on June 26th. As I was thinking of what I wanted to talk about in my last message, this might sound kind of like a retirement speech, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up being a woman in the law in Utah. We all know and we all hear all the time that, being a lawyer we are in a man's world. I want to talk just sort of about my career path and all the support I've had throughout my career from both amazing men and women. And I also want to talk about aging in the law as a woman. So first of all, as I was graduating law school and trying to get clerkships, no one was interested in me. I certainly wasn't top of the class. And the litigation section at the Attorney General's office interviewed myself and my good friend Sam Adams. And I remember talking to the woman who was interviewing me, and she wanted to know all about my life and my hobbies, and she could have cared less about my grades or anything that happened in law school. And Sam and I both got hired as clerks that year at the litigation section. I did have to tell them after being hired that I apologized, but I don't really do legal writing. It was such a great experience. We had a great set of clerks there. Shout out to Bart, who actually did all the heavy lifting with the writing. But they were such great mentors. I then got hired by David Yoakum at the district attorney's office, and again, could care less about my grades. He wanted someone who was personable. He wanted someone who had common sense. And my mentors there, Marty Bierhoff, whom was such a great mentor to young attorneys, always championed everyone. And then I think of supervisors I had throughout the years. Judge Paul Parker, that poor guy. I ended up crying in front of him like 3 times because I ended up pregnant with twins, and then there were complications. And then when I left the office, I cried because he was such a great supervisor and mentor. And then I look at just people I've worked with, all the women I've worked with. We had this amazing crew of women prosecutors when I was there. At one point, we were all on the drug team with former Judge Katie Bernards-Goodman. We all had babies together. We were all breastfeeding together. We were all pumping together, and just really cheering each other on. We would share. We kind of had pregnancy clothes that we would share among ourselves. And then becoming a private defense attorney, I've done much of my career. We forget the timing, but I've done many, many cases with Scott Williams. We have been in the trenches doing trials. He has always valued my opinion, even when we disagree, which we disagree frequently. And so me as a woman in the law, I've just been really, really lucky. I've had colleagues, I've had mentors, I have judges, and I've never felt anything less than. And I hope that continues for women now. I do want to talk just briefly about the challenges I brought up. Men have it pretty easy, I'm not going to lie. So we get pregnant. I remember being in Judge Frederick's court, if you know Judge Frederick, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just had to raise my hand. It was during a trial, and I was like, I need to eat some almonds. I was pregnant, but I hadn't announced it yet. I think that was my pregnancy with the twins. And, then we're in trial and you're breastfeeding and you have to bring your pump and all your supplies, and you have to tell male judges that you need a break. Now there are lactation rooms. Back then there were not. Judge Reese, during a trial, very graciously offered his chambers for me to come pump in. Very supportive. Then you have young babies and sleep deprivation. During the time that I went through my pregnancies, I think I had 4 or 5 different sizes of suits. And as a prosecutor, we weren't making a lot of money. I did a very lengthy trial fairly soon after having twins, and all the women in the office agreed, brought in suits so I could have different sizes and see what worked. I didn't have the money to go buy all these suits. Um, and then I look at aging now. I'm 51 now. As you can see, I've got the glasses on. None of us can read. I'm getting the gray hair. And there's all sorts of other challenges for those of us who are 45 to 55. If you know, you know. Just challenges with aging and still practicing law. And, any of us who are parents, your kids are at different stages. Those of us at this age, a lot of us are the sandwich generation where we have our parents and we have our kids and we're trying to navigate all of that. So it's just been a really, really interesting time. Lastly, I want to do a shout out to my closest people. I have a group, we're called the Lawyer Bitches, and we named ourselves that so we can be that. And we are there through thick and thin. We are there through the ups and downs. I also have a much broader group of people that are professionals, not just lawyers, mostly lawyers, judges, that we have therapists, we have court clerks, and we are called the Badass Broads. So this support and camaraderie and having people there through it all, I'm just very, very grateful. So as I sign off as your bar president, I strongly encourage you to get involved, to find people, to find your people, and, enjoy the ride.